So, as we've seen, revising and editing your written work can be where the most educational advantage is taken of the whole writing process. That's because it engages students once again as readers of their own work, and as critical readers of their own work. In order to improve something, you have to have a sense of what improvement is. And usually that's through a kind of trial and error, a process of trying out different modifications and adaptations to see which helps to clarify the purpose for which you're writing. In other words, if I'm trying to write an essay, then I have a good essay format and I have a style that suits it. As we'll see now, you can change the style that you're writing in quite easily, and it all depends on the way that you're structuring the language. We'll keep working with the text that we have at hand, and we'll think now about different ways that we can look at different writing styles for different disciplines and different genres and different purposes. So if we begin again with this sentence, the industrialization of education has resulted in a multi-billion-dollar business for the states of California and Texas, makes a statement of fact which isn't verified by any intertextual reference, so it doesn't speak to a particular source for that knowledge and information. Typically, in academic writing, making comments requires substantiation of all matters which could be debated as points of view and give an argument. So in order to turn this into a more academic piece of writing, we would typically employ the format of at least providing a citation. This is really important for students' understanding because it helps them to become resourceful in finding different sources for their information. It causes them to go and question their own knowledge and factual understanding and to learn the skills of information literacy and the associated means by which they can verify their thinking and their knowledge and their understanding. And this kind of self-propelled curiosity is one of the prime drivers behind good reading habits, as well as how it will then subsequently improve the writing that the students are doing. One could quite easily, of course, take it in a different direction. One could make it more journalistic. So if one was writing with the purpose of writing a news report or a report for a local newsletter that was going out, one could give more personable detail, more personal detail. Note that when writing in an academic format, we tend to depersonalize and increase the significance of focusing seriously on subject matter. Other more narrative styles of writing might employ humor as a way to maintain the reader's attention and to propel the story along. So if we took the same sentence, we might go provide a semicolon. In fact, there are other places in this paragraph where the same punctuation could be used. And go, that is, and if we wanted to make it really colloquial so that it felt like friendly talking, so it had more oral persuasion in it, we would simply use the contraction, that's enough money, and then provide some kind of analogical reasoning and thinking. We've already looked at the importance of providing analogies for people to think of similar things that help them to clarify the topic we're discussing. So to build your own space station and tour Mars. Okay. Now, if my goal is to grab the reader's attention and get them already thinking of ideas that I can elaborate on and provide substance to, then you can see how giving an analogical description helps to position what we're talking about. It's better than doing a more typical thing, which is saying this is important because. You hear me say that a lot. A more narrative genre allows you to express ideas in a less formal way, and we see the less formal in the use of the word that's. Note that this is a direction that's a little shifted from a typical essay writing genre, but that we can very effectively write essays that are combinations, a narrative essay. And so we can always bend genres. And when we're working like that, we're developing a writing style. The writing style that we develop and use can be honed in different genres. And by studying the form of our writing and what we want to get across, we can enhance it. If what I'd like the students to do is to be able to speak quite specifically about the topic at hand, well, then they have to start using critical research skills to build their own knowledge. So one way I can really engage students is by having them then, in terms of the idea of substitute and take out, add, rearrange, here we're adding detail, we're adding analogy, it's in a narrative kind of mode. But I could also, of course, be specifically adding detail or providing, as we said, in an academic format, providing a reference to the source of where we get the information that we're presenting in our writing. So if called on to do that, of course, we might have, let's just go to a new page here, and what we'll do is do exactly that. We'll go here in this browser, and now we're going multimodal, which is exciting because eventually when we think about publishing nowadays, we have many options, as I've mentioned, for publishing. And one of the most easily available to us once we have access to computers is, of course, publishing online. And so here we're going to do a little internet searching, and we might go amount of money, educational, trade, publishing in California and Texas. And we'll come up with a whole lot of different, oh, there's Rethinking Schools Online. They're talking about publishing of high school materials, but also, of course, the amount of money the standardized testing is costing. And here we have, right, textbook examples. What if I was to, before I go and explore one in depth, and now we'll just take the top one just to see and orient ourselves to where we're going. There we go. Look at that. Here, I better align this for you. So we see right away we've got a site here, breaking news on breaking stuff. We haven't yet checked out the validity of the site. And there's an article here by a fellow named Jonathan Band, and it's written on November 21st, 2013. He says the internet is transforming the 14 billion US textbook industry. And there it says it represents only 1% of overall education spending. The changes brought by the internet could result in significant improvements to the quality of education as well as cost savings, etc., etc. Now, what you see here, of course, is a link. So we're able to pursue the link and see where it takes us, thus getting some hypertext experience. And this takes us to a White House paper from the Council of Economic Advisors, Unleashing the Potential of Educational Technology. So this is a US State Department report. And here we'll go and be able to see more specifically laid out figures and tables so that we can again visualize from graphic elements. The tone of this, if we go, educational technology holds the promise of substantially improving outcomes for K-12 students. You note that there's very little of the personal in this. It's not expressing a narrative. It is trying to state fact. And so it has a much more formal and academic sound to the kind of text. This is typically the pattern that we'll look and that we will base when we need to base writing, public writing, on sources of information. The sources will usually take this kind of form. And this comes with all kinds of semiotics of authority, that is, symbols of its validity. So we'll go back to the paper and we'll start seeing the breakdown of various kinds of things, and which look interesting. And of course now we can actually get some specific knowledge of the exact figures that are spent and what have you, give us all kinds of different reference points. And of course we've only looked at one internet page so far. And this allows us then to start to, really build an understanding. We can keep looking. We are likely to find, because it's the internet, videos about it. Here's an article in Wired magazine, which is a very popular magazine of tech culture, and we've got various kinds. There's Canadian literature probably coming up because my search engines know the things that I search most frequently. So here's just a quick example of how in writing we are then called on to inform ourselves more deeply and to do what learning really is about. This kind of engaged curiosity driven by the need to produce relevant statements that you can substantiate as reasonable arguments. So we'll just go back to our thing and say, in a $14 billion business, and here, if we wanted to, we could then use the citation, and we could either use a web citation, as is becoming more and more common these days, or go back to the actual paper put out by the White House as the source of the information, and go and find where it is and give it a page number and what have you. For the sake of time, then, that's just one quick way that we can start to engage students through the writing practice by having them experience all the stages in the writing process. We teach students to be more avid in their learning, to back up their knowledge and understanding. In fact, we increase the speed of their learning by turning them into good self-motivated learners, and giving them the opportunity then to go and bring more into their understanding through the process of getting better at actually writing, and writing in different styles. We're just looking at 2 there. Of course, we can look at a third, which would be how to take this and turn it into a poem or something and give much more personal meaning to what's being written. These all achieve different purposes. They're all important genres that students need to have practice in writing if A, they're going to really enjoy the practice of writing, and B, they're going to improve and be able to become really good at specifically academic genres and styles of writing. So that's just to point out that we need to spend time working with this. If you take your own piece of writing now, try and shift it so that you are changing it from one genre to another, and just try a few sentences and see how that goes. When you're able to either create a narrative and build around that, or to create something that is more formal and constrained in what it says, provides more detail in terms of factual information, and emphasizes those kinds of ideas, as opposed to, say, provides analogical thinking and reasoning, humor, and uses that for interest value. Note that there's, 2 different styles depending on the genre of the writing. Okay, so we'll try that. Use your writing to now generate a narrative of it, and to have what you're developing as more textbook-like language.